thinking before the show, listening to all the other speakers, that my mom wanted me to get into a company like a life insurance company so I could have health insurance and things like that. And boy, did I really go off onto another tangent. Every time I'd come home from a trip, I'd share these amazing stories, and she'd be like, "Are you done yet? You're going to go working for this life insurance company?" And it just wasn't in my nature, you know, and so ultimately what happened, I was always seeking adventure and found myself really coming to a place where I could say I've cheated death more times than I could ever want to admit. First one was in the belly of a mountain, Mount McKinley in Alaska, during a huge storm, 100+ mile-an-hour winds. Tent was destroyed, dug a snow cave, crawled inside and thought, there's no way we're going to make it through the night. And got home, did a short film about that. Survived an avalanche in Alaska on a mountain called the Moose's Tooth, incredible mountain. Fell all the way down that mountain, 700 feet, buried the whole way. And during that time, when I was under that snow with the plug, if you will, choking me to death, I thought my last thoughts were thinking about my kids, thinking, what a stupid way to die. You know, going after this dream, why is this dream important, you know? I had to climb this dumb mountain and trip an avalanche, and I almost died. Thank goodness, I popped out right at the bottom. I lived, you know, and there's numerous other stories like that. So I ask myself all the time, I'll wake up in the middle of the night, why am I doing this? Why am I doing it? And it's because I'm passionate about it. I just wanted to do it. It was and is who I am. I'm not the guy who goes to work for that life insurance company. I admire those people who can do it. Everybody's got to do their thing. But I'm different. I am me. And I'm not going to make the world any happier if I don't go after the things that are important to me. Nobody wants a miserable guy out there just like, boo-hoo, I'm going to work, I don't like what I do. They're going to love you, and the world's going to be a better place if you follow the things you want to do. But all these things, this is what I became doing. I was a documentary filmmaker. This is what I wanted to be so I could go rub elbows with those people who really took risks, who did dangerous things, who were expert at living life on the edge. And every time I got to do a film, it was kind of a new topic, whether filming orcas or right whales or mountain climbing on Everest or in Pakistan and all sorts of weird countries all over the world. But it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I found a story that really, truly impacted me, and I realized that I've got more of an impact on my career and what I give the world, because I met this guy named Keith. Kind of a guy like any other guy. Great athlete, kid in high school, superb soccer player. The world is his oyster. A team from Europe offers him a professional contract to go play soccer in Europe, and that's his plan. Then in 2001, the 9/11 terrorist attacks happen, and his best friend's dad is killed. A firefighter is killed in that. And for weeks and weeks, they looked for this guy's body, and during that time while they were looking for the body of his best friend's dad, a guy that he considered a father to him, he starts to think, like, soccer isn't it for me. I want to do something different. I want to protect this world. I want to be somebody who has an impact. I want to go help save people. So Keith joins the military, and before he even turned 18, his mother signs him off, and he goes into the Marines, Special Forces Marine. Amazing. He found his calling, truly calling, and he knew that he was doing the right thing, what he was meant to be doing on this planet. 2006, in Fallujah, during a battle there, riding atop a Humvee, an IED explosion goes off. Keith is knocked unconscious, severe head injury, ultimately loses a battle to keep his leg, which is severely injured, but the 4 guys in the Humvee were killed. So when he woke up in the hospital shortly thereafter, he realized that the one thing that he wanted to do was devote his life to making sure that the children of those guys that he was in battle with would have an opportunity to go to school, to get educated, maybe just have meals. So Keith joins this, if you will, small army of people who decide that running an ultramarathon is a fun thing to do. And he wants to raise money for the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. But to one-up him, puts a 50-pound backpack on his back, and his leg had not been amputated yet, so he's trying to fight to save it, raises $60,000, donates every penny to that Warrior Foundation. And it was about that time that I got to meet him. Shortly thereafter, he takes upon himself to join a climb of Mount Rainier with a very good friend of mine, an Everest soulmate of mine, who I've weathered many, many storms with, life and death kind of storms, a friend named Andy Politz. They climb Mount Rainier in Washington State, and in this gargantuan effort, Keith and his newly fitted prosthetic leg do an 18-hour round trip from high camp to summit, back down again. Andy constantly thinking to himself, I have never seen more willpower, more perseverance, more bravery than that guy on that one day of that summit climb. Anybody in his right mind would have turned around with all the hardships this guy was facing. So Andy calls me, he says, we got to do a film. We've got to do a film on this guy. Now this is what films are for, because if I can do a film and inspire one person, then I'm doing the right thing. If I can make a living at it, I'm doing a better thing. So I agreed. Unfortunately, I did, because I got myself into a lot of work. No money, we just put it in there. We're going to raise some money for the Special Operations Warrior Foundation, along with Keith. And we took it upon ourselves to have our first adventure on Mount Washington in New Hampshire, the highest point in the Northeast, as many of you know. And our goal was to climb a route called Central Gully, fairly easy climb. It's this diagonal line right here going up, probably 700, maybe 1,000 feet, laid back, fairly simple. Wouldn't you know it, the day dawns to have this Ascents of Honor climb, and then the newly inaugurated company and organization called Ascents of Honor. We get up to do our climb, heavy snow, 10 degrees, and high winds. And so Keith said, I'm not turning around, let's go. We kept pushing, and I was really blown away, because as you can see from his leg, he's got this prosthetic on, and it kept punching through the snow. So what might have taken us 3 or 4 hours to get to the top of that route ultimately took us probably 7 or 8 hours. And so right about near the top of that climb, just as darkness was falling, way behind the 8 ball at this time, where 12 guys you'd think would make a good decision and turn around, we continued to push on. Me, being the lead rope guy with the camera, heads up just in front of this rope team right here, Andy, Keith in the middle, and then his son in the background. I cut in front of them and suddenly realized that we were in some serious danger. Just at that thought, tripped an avalanche, a slab avalanche, probably about this deep. The avalanche came through, tried to brace myself, and it fell through my legs, ultimately, like building up, and popped our rope team off. We fell about 50 feet. And if not for the miraculous self-arrest of the guy in the front of my rope, we would have been swept all the way to the bottom. So we stand up about a minute later, and I turn, and this rope team has disappeared. And we were 110% positive that all 3 of them were dead. No question in my mind, they were not going to make it. So we started to down climb. And as you can see, the down climbing, while the if you will, the height and the steepness of the climb wasn't difficult, in this kind of terrain, probably 20 below zero temperatures, snow continuing to fall, we were all developing a little bit of frostbite. We were thinking to ourselves, these guys are dead. How am I going to tell Andy's wife, that her husband and son are gone, and that Keith's mom is going to have to get another phone call, your son's either very, very injured or dead? So fortunately, they were saved. They got themselves to the bottom. We didn't know this till about 4 or 5 hours later. They get to the bottom of the climb. Andy had a compound open wound fracture just below his right knee. Open wound, if you know what I mean, is the bone comes out, if you will. And so Keith had a severe head injury, and when he landed, his prosthetic jammed into the stump of his leg. So here they were, completely unable to walk, so they crawled for a couple of hours, and finally found help from a rescue crew that they notified. I don't even know how they did that. I think one of their telephones might have still had enough of a charge in it. They were helivac'd out, and you'd think, okay, we're done. No more Ascents of Honor. Let's get this thing over with. Let's go back to our daily lives and call it a day or a life. Keith had nothing to prove, for sure. Well, dreams don't die. You can try to blow the flame out, and it looks like it's out, and it's like one of those birthday candles, like a trick. You blow it out, and it comes back. And there was no dying for this one. Keith spent about 6 months back in a wheelchair, recovering, and continues to pursue his dream and goal of being an adventure seeker, while Andy's goal of making Ascents of honor a reality is still strong as ever. Andy says that if we allow our veterans to come back from war and not be whole, not be completely brought back from whatever dangers they faced, real danger, not ones that we manufacture by climbing a mountain or jumping off a big ski jump, and that's what I do. But if we don't let them come all the way home, then we're a broken whole, So Andy is now embarking upon a 6-month effort to bring many veterans who have post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injury, and he's going to bring them on mountain climbs all over the United States. He's pushing because he says we can't let those veterans languish like that and be sick, because if one veteran is sick, or one person even, then we're not complete, and we're not really doing ourselves a big service by letting there be that illness underneath. So next time you see a veteran or somebody who's returned from overseas, whether it's just to guard people or whether in the line of battle, you want to think to yourself, thank God for people like Andy, who's going out there to try to make broken pieces whole again, so our whole society, our culture, can be complete. Thank you very much for your time today.